Hello and welcome to the November Shrewscast with all things going on at Shrewsbury House. This month we have a number of cultural events which we're going to highlight. On the 7th of November we have Lights, Sketches, Action from the Shooters Hill Drama Collective. On the 14th of November we have Folk on the Hill in the Library Bar. The acts appearing this month are Joe Honey, Zephyr Wills, In the Meantime and Izzy Hollingham. Moving on to the 24th of November, we have Muscadin, 50 Years of Folk. That's again in the Library Bar, Friday the 24th of November. And finally, we have the Arts Music Lounge on the 28th of November. This month, we have Dexter Shaw and the Wolf Tones with Dawnette Fessy. All of those events in the Library Bar. Tickets are available on sale from the Shrewsbury House website. So those are the exciting cultural events we've got coming up at Shrewsbury House in the next month. But our main feature today in the Shrewscast is the production of Romeo and Juliet with the Stage Acting Studio. It's an exciting project for us here at the house. It's billed as an immersive promenade performance, so it's just that it already starts off as being a little bit different. That text you might be very familiar with from your GCSEs is being given a whole new spin by director Adrian Decosta and his cast. A few days ago I dropped in on their rehearsals and had a chat with Adrian. Adrian, thank you for taking time out from the rehearsal room to talk to me this evening for the Shrewscast. Let me start with a really basic question. Why Romeo and Juliet and why Shrewsbury House?
Romeo and Juliet is an all-time classic. A lot of people know the show, so I feel like it's very accessible for people. You know, two young lovers, two families in conflict. It's got enough things to it that can draw families in. And one of my things with Shakespeare is to make it accessible. So that being the first show that I bring to Shrewsbury House, I think it's the best one for me to do.
Now, famously, I think in the text, Shakespeare talks about 2 hours traffic on the stage. But in fact, here you don't just have a stage, you have the entire house and the gardens that you're planning to use. So how does that change your... Does the idea come first, or does the play come first and then you look at this room will be good for that scene or whatever?
Initially, the text came first. So the play is always fundamentally first for me. So as soon as I sort of had the idea that it was something that I wanted to do, I went through the text and looked at where these places could be. Then looked at the house, and the house already started to just speak to me in its own language. The balcony was an obvious choice for me to know where that would be, where Juliet would be. Going to Verona itself and seeing Juliet's balcony, you know, it gave me that sense of going, oh yeah, of course. That's perfect, because Romeo doesn't need to climb the balcony because there was no way for him to do it originally. That's just something that we've created through theatre. So that was a really obvious choice. So then her bedroom became that room. The downstairs became certain sections in different places. Each room in Shrewsbury House has its own character. So almost the character of the room led to the character of the people whose room that is. So the Montagues have a certain room, the Capulets have another room. The bar is basically going to be where we have our masquerade ball, and that's where the audience will be invited to learn some period dance. They'll also wear the masks that they've been asked to bring with them, so that they can learn the dance and be part of our masquerade ball, and that will be the first meeting of Romeo and Juliet. And they won't just be able to see it, they'll be part of the storytelling. And that's the important thing that I'm really trying to drive with this promenade interactive show.
And you were telling me earlier that you're very keen to get the Shrewsbury House community and our community of users and groups and so on involved in the production, not just the people who are going to be speaking Shakespeare's words, but making it happen for the audience. How does that work?
Well, Shrewsbury House has so many communities that work within it, and the house is always full with something going on. And I felt that for them to be able to see Shakespeare in the place that they're working, it has to work. They have to be involved. And if I can have involvement from people that maybe the Beavers and the Scouts can help us make masks, for the actors, or the seamstresses and the sewing group can help us with, adapting costumes. I really want the community here to be a part of this show, and even if it's either helping contribute to the making of the show, or simply being able to just come and see it, because I feel like it's not been done to this scale in this house before. Shrewsbury House has plenty of shows that go on, but it's usually just in one place or in the gardens. But to use the gardens and all of the rooms, that's something extremely exciting.
And talking about it, exciting, the language in Romeo and Juliet is famous. There are beautiful, tender moments of text, but also there's violent action. And I noticed when I was preparing for this that you yourself have actually played Mercutio in the past, one of the leading characters, who doesn't make it to the end, no spoilers, but is one of the absolutely key characters in the play. What do you think Shakespeare and playing Shakespeare and hearing Shakespeare can still tell us in 2025?
I think it's just the ownership of language. There's a real poetic way in which you can say something. The stories that can be told and the way in which you can say something is amazing when it comes to our text. Sometimes even the understanding that we can just slow down, because there are moments in Shakespeare where you drive up and you arrive at a thought and you have time to think. And I think in today's society we move so quickly, we don't have enough time to take a pause and think about maybe what the next thing we're going to say, and take our time and really understand where that thought is going to take us and what that means to say something. Shakespeare's text, it should be accessible because it was written to be accessible. He didn't write it for just a certain type of people. He wrote it to be accessible to everybody. It's why there's so many levels that we have in the globe. You've got the pit, you've got the gods, and you've got the middle sections, and people seated, people standing. It's in his text is driven to allow everybody at each of those levels to feel like there's something that appeals to them. And that's the beauty of his text.
And in fact, the rehearsal I was watching a few minutes ago, you were talking about, for example, I think it was Lord Capulet being a self-made man, an Alan Sugar type character who's wanting to show off for the public of Verona. Do you think that kind of accessibility analogy is really important?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you make choices when it comes to how you want to portray these characters, and there are so many different versions of Romeo and Juliet in different ways. I mean, we've had them, I've seen it in a pub car park, in a sense, where they're two warring pubs. I've seen it, classically done. I've seen it like, you've got, the popular Baz Luhrmann version, which is done almost in that Mexican sort of gang warfare. There are so many different choices that you can make. But I always think that the choices come from the text. Shakespeare gives us these ideas. Traditionally, the actor, the players, only got their text and a few beats to give them their cue. So lots of the understanding of how they understood their character was from the text that they had, and looking at what's being said about me, how am I saying this, or where am I meant to be, what information can I take from that. And that's where you start to become a detective and start working out, who is this person, why does he say this? So with my characters, I was just looking at various ways to make it accessible for the audience, for them to recognise this sort of character. And he's quite a large character. But he's also a father that has a daughter, and he loves his daughter, and he wants the best for her. And he's just seeing an opportunity to marry his daughter to somebody that everyone loves, everyone respects. He's a classy guy at Paris. He would be, I would say, like our Gaston in Beauty and the Beast. He's the guy that everyone wants to be, and for him to marry his daughter, that's great news for him.
It sounds to me like you've found a central sort of image for the play which people can come and discover here. which is not always depicted in modern productions. Paris is a character who's often cut to save time on stage.
Yeah, true. But I think that there's something about Paris that is really interesting, because if he's either cut or played as a villain, or maybe a young character that rivals Romeo, which he does, or an older seedy man that wants to marry a young ripe woman. I like to just see what earnest and how honest this person can be. The fact that he finds Juliet attractive. She's of an age at that period of time that it was okay to be married. So he doesn't see there being a problem. He thinks she's a lovely girl. And why not follow that story of him actually really being in love with this girl and wanting to see her and see where that goes? I mean, because it's my version, I don't want to give too much away in the sense of what happens with Paris, but let's say it'd be a very interesting and honest portrayal of the character that maybe might not have been looked at.
I have to say, having watched a bit of the rehearsal and having talked to you now, I'm fascinated to see how it all turns out. How can people make sure that they can come here to the house and see the show?
So you can go to the Shrewsbury House events page. If you scroll down, you'll see us, Romeo and Juliet is there. You can click on the link and that will give you a link to the tickets. The tickets are available now, so if you get online you can get them now. They are selling out extremely quick because we only have a limited amount of tickets for our show. Because it's an interactive promenade performance, we can only have a certain amount of people in the house at one time. And because they're moving from room to room, we need to allow that for safety reasons. So there is a limited amount of tickets that are available. If you get yourself a ticket, we also have a lottery. So if you choose, you can be part of our lottery, because we have one character that an audience member will be able to take the opportunity to play, which is a very important character in our play. And they'll get to play that character so they can actually be part of our production. We also have masks that we're asking our audience to basically bring a mask with them. There are details on how to make a mask if you wish. They're also there when you buy tickets. And that means that you'll be part of our festive masquerade ball that Lord Capulet has invited all of you to. And you'll learn how to do a period dance and be part of the first meeting of Romeo and Juliet. And there'll be many small things that the audience will be a part of as well. So the tickets are available. We really want you to be involved. The date is the 6th of December. It will be at Shrewsbury House. The doors open at 1:30 for a 2 o'clock show. The show finishes at 4. The bar will be open throughout, so if you wish to have a drink, you can, and you can carry that drink with you. We're also making sure that, because we're moving throughout the house, that it's accessible for everybody. We do have journeys that do go upstairs, but we will also have a live feed from our upstairs room that will be fed downstairs to a TV monitor that audience members, if they can't go up the stairs, they can still see what is happening in the show.
We often talk about immersive theatre. I think this is about as immersive as it gets. Adrian Decosta, thank you very much for talking to the Shrewscast.
Thank you very much for having me.
So that was director Adrian Decosta. Tickets for Romeo and Juliet are on sale now, but they're selling fast. So get onto the Shrewsbury House website and book yourself a chance to see something pretty special, we think. And to give you an idea of what to expect, this is Miranda Langley, who is playing Juliet, with a speech that you might have heard before. Bye-bye.
Gallop apace, you fiery-footed steeds, and bring on cloudy night immediately. Lovers can see to do their amorous rites by their own beauties. Or, if love be blind, it best agrees with night. Come, civil night, thy sober-suited matron, all in black with thy black mantle, till strange love grow bold. Come, night. Come, Romeo. Come thy day in night. Give me my Romeo. And when I shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he shall make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the garish sun.